Hi and welcome. I'm Lisa. Thanks for joining me here on the Whimsy Stamps channel. Today's video is all about Whimsy's large script word dies. I'm going to share two ways to create quick and simple rainbow sentiments that will pop off the front of your cards. Now, large word dies are very popular right now in card making. I absolutely love them. Making them the focal point of your card is easy because most of them fill the front of an A2 card base beautifully. I'm going to get us started with a simple shaker card, but first I need to create my rainbow blending for my die cut words. And the easiest way to do this is by simply ink blending with your favorite inks. I'm using Distress Oxides here because they blend together so beautifully. You could use dye inks, pigment inks, whatever you have, that's what you should use. I'm going to lay down a red, yellow, and blue, and then I'm going to come back in and fill in between those colors with orange and green. And once I'm happy with the blending, I'll set this aside to dry. Now, because we're die cutting this out, it doesn't need to be perfect. You could even add some water splatters to this if you wanted to. So moving on to the shaker part of our card. Whimsy's Comic Burst A2 die is the perfect die for creating shakers. I ran it through my die cutting machine with 110-pound Nina Avalanche white cardstock. I'll be using an A2 card base cut from that same heavyweight cardstock. I've trimmed a piece of crystal clear craft plastic to 3 7/8 of an inch by 5 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to adhere the plastic to the back side of my die cut panel using my tape runner. Once I add the tape to the back of the panel, I'm going to lay the plastic down and I'm going to burnish the acetate with my finger, ensuring that the plastic is adhered to the tape all the way around. I'm going to come in with a 1/4 inch wide mounting foam to the back side of the panel. And the most important thing when making a shaker is that all the mounting foam is touching. If there's any openings in the shaker, the contents will fly out when shaken. So I'm going to lay down some confetti on this card base. And I want to use seed beads in this shaker. So I want to create a whale with the sequins so I can add the seed beads in the center and I don't have to worry about them rolling all around. Once I have the seed beads laid down, I'm going to remove the release paper from the back of the mounting foam and center this panel up over the sequins onto my card base. I'm going to set this aside while I run my ink blended cardstock through the die cutting machine with the large Your and Awesome dies. Now I also run the same dies through with black cardstock. I'm using the black die cut words to create a little bit of shadow behind the rainbow word. So add glue to the back of the rainbow layer and adhere it to the black card set, offsetting it just a bit. I'm going to lay an acrylic block down on the top of them while they dry, and then I can continue to layer the other die cut pieces together. So I have this image that I stamped and colored and die cut from the BAM Your Old Stamp set. It's been sitting in a bowl on my desk waiting to be used, and I thought she would be perfect for this card. I add mounting foam to the back of her and add her to the bottom right corner of the card. Glue to the back of the sentiments, adhere them to the card, weight it down with an acrylic block until it's dry. So while that dries, let's move on to our second card. We're going to get started by stamping the burst background stamp from Whimsy onto white cardstock using black ink. You could also use the Cosmic Swirl background stamp for this if you have it. I'm going to trim it down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches using my paper trimmer. Adhere it to a 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch black cardstock panel. And I have the center left over from the die cutting of that comic burst panel earlier, so we're going to use that on the center of this card. For the first card, we used inks to create rainbows for our die cutting. Now for this card, I'm using my alcohol markers to create the rainbow. I think this is a great tip for beginners. You can create the same look with different supplies. You don't have to have all the things to create. So when you're doing this, be mindful of the size of your die cut letters. I had to go back in and add more red and orange to accommodate the size of that Y. So before I ran the dies through the die cutting machine, I added double-sided adhesive to the back of the cardstock, and then I cut the rainbow layer and 2 more layers out of white cardstock so I could stack them together to create some dimension. I remove the release paper from the back of the die cut word and then add that to the card after stacking those layers together. So to finish the sentiment off, I'm stamping Totally Amazing from the Simple Sentiments stamp set onto a strip of white cardstock. Now this sentiment actually stamps You're Totally Amazing. And since I only need part of it to stamp, I simply line the stamp up over the edge of my ink pad, allowing me to skip the masking step, ink the stamp up, and then stamp it out. Mounting foam to the back of the sentiment strip, place it under the die cut word, and I like to offset it just a little bit. So I decided I wanted to add something to the lower part of the card, so I quickly stamped out the 3 girls from the Simply Stunning stamp set. Only the top part of them because I'm going to be running them through the die cut machine with the dies you see laying there. Those are from the Selfie die set. Now I love that die set because there are so many things you can do with it. The images are so easy to color from that Simply Stunning stamp set. In fact, they're the perfect size to create these little Polaroid type photos for the bottom of our card. So once I finish coloring the images, I run them through the die cut machine with those little dies, plus I cut 2 extra layers out of white cardstock. I add glue to each layer to create dimension around those colored images. I'm going to use mounting foam to the back of each of those photos and adhere that to the card. Now, if you don't want the dimension, you can skip the mounting foam and just use glue if you prefer. Now you could finish this off with a few gem stickers or sequins. And that's going to wrap us up for today. Let me know what you think of Whimsy's script word dies in the comments below. I love them. Now for more inspiration, be sure to join us in the Whimsy Stamps and Inspiration Facebook group. You can also find us on Instagram and Pinterest. And for more information on the products you've seen in this video, click the links directly below. Head on over to the Whimsy Stamps website to check it out. I appreciate you so very much for spending time with me today. And until next time, please take care.